This is Steve Colano, and this is Confidential Remarks. Any healthy market relies on a single, uncompromising baseline. Buyers and sellers must be able to exchange information freely. Without unrestricted visibility, true market value is impossible to determine. For decades, American real estate operated on this principle. The MLS is a shared utility, distributing data freely to agents, portals, and buyers. But major brokerages are now building walled-off systems that intentionally sever connections, isolating buyers inside corporate ecosystems. Brokers often pitch these private networks to sellers as a premium service, leaning on the allure of exclusivity. The reality is entirely different. This is a calculated architectural restructuring of how housing data flows in America. By sequestering listings within private silos, large brokerages are intentionally dismantling a transparent public utility and replacing it with a fragmented system designed to control inventory. As this text explicitly outlines, moving real estate inventory outside the public marketplace carries serious consequences. Restricting visibility engineers a sophisticated information asymmetry. When half the market cannot see what is for sale, the entire economic model breaks down. The seller receives distorted valuations, and the buyer is forced to make choices from an artificially restricted pool of options. Engineered opacity serves a specific commercial function. By controlling the flow of information, a brokerage can prioritize proprietary internal metrics, often at the direct expense of a client's financial outcome. In this fragmented landscape, the less the public is allowed to see, the more capital and opportunity are lost by the buyers and sellers participating in the transaction. The term off-market obscures the actual mechanics. Withholding properties from broad syndication happens along a distinct spectrum. At the first tier, off-market listings are handled purely through quiet word-of-mouth networks, bypassing public databases entirely. The second tier is brokerage-exclusive networks. Large firms build internal platforms, restricting listing access strictly to their own agents. Finally, pre-market programs delay MLS entry, allowing the brokerage to expose the home internally before the broader public gets a look. The sales pitch to the homeowner leans heavily on the appeal of a quiet transaction, yet the mechanical reality actively suppresses buyer awareness. Whether a whispered pocket listing or a heavily branded corporate pre-market program, every tier requires a calculated reduction in market exposure. Privacy is a legitimate concern for certain demographics. High-profile individuals and executives often want to avoid the disruption of public open houses. This desire sets up the seller's paradox. Real estate values rely entirely on price discovery. The final sale price is determined by competitive tension when multiple buyers bid against each other. But when you artificially restrict the buyer pool, that upward pressure evaporates. The clearing price drops. Listing agents rarely present this explicit mathematical cost to their sellers during the initial consultation. Homeowners who agree to a private listing routinely accept lower sale prices simply because they are unaware of the financial penalty attached to weakened competition. For buyers, the problem is absolute. If a property is withheld from the public search, it functionally does not exist. Buyers make high-stakes binding offers on available homes without realizing superior options are being hidden behind proprietary walls. Access to these hidden properties depends entirely on which agent you hire and the corporate network they belong to. The result is a rigidly two-tiered market. This dynamic systematically penalizes specific demographics. First-generation homebuyers, buyers moving to unfamiliar cities, and those lacking elite professional connections are locked out of prime inventory. This blind spot creates a structural barrier to entry. Gated inventory turns the open marketplace into a closed system, favoring those with established industry ties. If private listings weaken seller profits and restrict buyer choice, why push them so aggressively? The answer is a foundational rule. Whoever controls the inventory controls the entire market pipeline. Private networks increase the likelihood of dual agency. On the left, the fiduciary model relies on competing agents. On the right, the dual agency model routes a property to an internal buyer, letting one brokerage collect both buy-side and sell-side commissions. The incentive structure of a proprietary network is at odds with the fiduciary duty to prioritize the client's best outcome. By capturing both sides of a commission, the brokerage ensures its own profit, regardless of whether the client achieved a fair price. The systemic risk of private networks triggered a severe regulatory standoff, illustrated by this tension map. In the middle sits the clear cooperation policy. It requires that once a property is publicly marketed, it must be submitted to the MLS within 1 business day. Large brokerages aggressively fight this policy to protect the proprietary data moats they built, leading to massive gaps in local enforcement across the country. The fight over clear cooperation represents a division over whether the housing market will operate as a transparent public utility or a fragmented private club. With this regulatory battle unresolved, market participants must protect their capital. This document outlines 4 questions every consumer must ask. Sellers must demand the financial cost of reduced exposure. Buyers must verify their search isn't limited by private networks. Both must question who benefits financially. Real estate should be approached as a rigid exercise in information economics. To stay updated on these precise market dynamics, check out episode 222 of Confidential Remarks, available on all major podcast platforms. In a market defined by engineered opacity, asking the right questions ensures you aren't paying the price for what you can't see. This has been Confidential Remarks.